President Putin discussed the Burevestnik missile back in 2017 for the first time. He mentioned this missile that would be able to be undetectable, nuclear capable, powered by a small nuclear reactor, unable to be stopped by any air defense, and it could fly for months on end and target anywhere in the world and loiter for weeks and months at a time and be, activated by a code sent from Moscow. Everyone said, "You're crazy. That's never going to happen. You are lying. You are bluffing. That's a bunch of BS. This is science fiction." Well, reality, I think, just slapped every EU leader, every pundit, and every Western, military industrial complex CEO and lobbyist in the face, and they never saw it coming. Over the past few weeks, we saw Donald Trump toy around with the idea of sending Tomahawks to Ukraine. Keir Starmer, the Europeans, NATO, they've been actively lobbying to try and get Trump to supply these long-range missiles, which are nuclear capable. The U.S. claimed they got rid of all the nuclear capabilities for the Tomahawk missiles, but I happen to not believe the United States when they tell me they got rid of one of their technologies. I don't know about you, but they claim they got rid of this stuff. Okay. The truth is, if Russia sees a Tomahawk coming towards Moscow or towards wherever in their country, because these are long-range missiles, they do not know if this is a nuclear warhead on the Tomahawk or if it is not. Meaning, Russia would have to defend itself as a nuclear weapon were coming to its territory. Despite that, we are seeing increasing levels of escalatory rhetoric, potentially action coming in particular from the European. Starmer talking about the coalition of the willing. Ukraine's future is our future. What happens in the weeks and months ahead is pivotal for the security of the United Kingdom and our allies. We will provide Ukraine with 5,000 missiles. Okay, these are not long-range missiles, but nonetheless, you can see where this is going. Zelensky also at this meeting, he said, "Today we agreed to step up in the coming months. Peace is born from pressure on the aggressor." One would have to ask the question, Zelensky, why are you focused on pressuring them through offensive campaigns when you're actively losing more and more of your territory on a daily basis? You're losing the ability to simply provide electricity for your civilians, transportation for your civilians. You get the idea. Their industry is falling apart. They lack the ability to even produce gas now. This is a very sad state of affairs. And instead of selecting the peace option, you have Zelensky saying stuff like this, okay? France has said that they are now considering sending a military contingent of 2,000 soldiers to Ukraine, soldiers from the French Foreign Legion, mainly from Latin American countries. Reports suggest they are already on the border with Ukraine in training. This isn't the first chance of NATO using mercenaries to provoke Russia. In 2022, the Foreign Legion and American mercenaries were also deployed by Ukraine by NATO. We all know how that story went. Now, my favorite story was this from Bild, from Germany. Putin no longer has nuclear bombs. Well, isn't that interesting? Putin no longer has nuclear bombs. Well, today we are learning something very interesting. Russia has unveiled a new missile called the Burevestnik. And this Burevestnik missile is absolutely technologically impressive, to say the least. But Burevestnik means storm bringer. Vestnik in Russian means like a messenger, a courier. During the Russian Empire, this is what it translates to. So the direct translation is storm bringer. NATO media, NATO officials, they have referred to this missile as the Skyfall missile, which leads me to the next video where you will get to see this Skyfall missile in action for the first time as it conducted its first successful test, and it flew for 15 hours. 15 hours, if you can believe it. And maybe we're not going to play the song here because it'll probably get copyright striked and you might lose access to see this live stream. So we're not going to play the song, but you know the song. You know the song, the Skyfall missile, you know the song. You see the technicians working on this missile. That is the warhead, I guess. So it's a fairly large missile. It's 2 times larger than the Tomahawk cruise missile. Fairly large, not massive, not Sarmat, not Orishnik, but it's fairly large. 2 times larger than the Tomahawk missile and I guess other comparable Tomahawk-sized missiles. So that was the first test, and it flew for 15 hours, you guys. As you can see here, it is highly maneuverable. It can go up, down, sideways, go in circles. It can do whatever it wants. It, as you can see, this is the most impressive part here, actually. It can loiter. We're going to talk about that in a second. Why a loitering feature, it's a loiterer, why the loitering feature is the most important part of the tech of this missile. Here's a few fast stats for you. So the engine is a mini nuclear reactor. The Burevestnik engine is a mini nuclear reactor. It's much smaller, yet much more powerful than the nuclear reactors that Russia has traditionally used in their submarines. Meaning, this mini nuclear reactor that they've developed has the capability to be used for civilian use, maybe for a small, stealthy submarine that they could produce. And it also has the capability of allowing this Burevestnik missile to not just fly for 15 hours as it did in its tests, but it could fly for months. You heard that right. This missile that Russia just unveiled could fly for months, and it can avoid pretty much any air defense. Really, yes, any air defense. Nothing can stop this. It can go over the Atlantic, can go over the Indian, can go over the Pacific, can go over the Arctic, can go wherever it wants. Can loiter wherever it wants for however long it pretty much wants. And at a moment's notice, with an activation code that would be sent presumably from Moscow, this missile can lock in on its target and do whatever it needs to do. Because this is a missile that it likely utilizes AI technology, it can maneuver in whatever direction, whatever way it needs to, air defense systems become useless. Because you can't have air defense systems that protect from every single angle, every single region of the country and every single angle. I mean, it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. It's not possible. You can't protect your whole country from every single angle from a missile that could be fired at a moment's notice from anywhere in the world because it can fly for months on end. It's impossible. Now, what is important about this for Russia is that the days of Russia needing Cuba, for example, to have a missile threat against the U.S. landmass are over. The days of Russia needing to have, strategic bombers that can reach the U.S. landmass are over. Now you have the Burevestnik missile, which can, if there's high, tense negotiations going on, if Tomahawks are being deployed to Europe and Russia really doesn't like that, and Russia says, hey, let's negotiate you removing those Tomahawks from Europe or from Ukraine. Russia can, this is a stealth missile, by the way, they can launch it and they can say, okay, let's talk now about removing those Tomahawks from Ukraine. We fired a Burevestnik missile 3 days ago, and it's currently flying off the coast of New York, far enough to the point where you guys aren't going to be able to find it or hit it, but it's flying somewhere there. When in actuality, it's flying over the Arctic. The U.S. doesn't know that, right? And they say, look, we can hit our activation code at any moment, and that's going to target a U.S. military base in Iraq. Who knows? Whatever it is. The U.S. has no idea where it's going to be coming from, no idea when it's going to hit. They have no ability to monitor where this missile is at any given moment. And it could be weeks from now, it could be hours from now, it could be seconds, you get the idea. This is the end-all be-all to missile systems, okay? And yes, it is nuclear powered. Yes, it carries a massive megaton warhead. And yes, bypasses any missile defense system anywhere, okay? So the whole talk of the Golden Dome, the Iron Dome, the U.S. creating its own Golden Dome and stuff, I mean, this is out the window, never to be heard from again if the U.S. was not controlled by the military-industrial complex, that is. This is, it's meaningless at this point after Russia has revealed this missile, okay? So basically, the whole point of Russia, the SMO, NATO's involvement in moving further and further east has been the idea that NATO wants long-range missiles and obviously nuclear missiles in these countries as close to Russia as possible. Well, the Burevestnik missile, it basically neutralizes the entire equation right now. Neutralizes the entire equation. The U.S. is still working on producing Tomahawk missiles, by the way. They still haven't figured out how to produce these Tomahawk or these hypersonic missiles. Russia now has whatever this is, Burevestnik, Stormbringer, okay? Donald Trump responded to the news of this new missile. He said, well, we have the greatest submarine in the world, and we don't need 8,000 kilometers. The United States has a nuclear submarine station near the Russian coast. Washington is not joking about deterrence issues, and Moscow is well aware of that. Hypothetically, this Burevestnik missile also could be particularly useful if a preemptive nuclear strike were to take place on the Russian Federation, because those Burevestniks go up, and even if all of Russia is leveled, these new Stormbringer missiles could be loitering somewhere around the world, and then they could target, whatever country was responsible for a preemptive nuclear strike on the Russian Federation. These are also nuclear-capable missiles, by the way, which is Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov said that after the successful tests of the Burevestnik missile, everyone has gone quiet. Everyone in the West has gone quiet. There's not a lot of talk about these Tomahawks right now. Not a lot of talk about long-range missiles right now. And also, as this is all going on, as Russia unveils this missile, federal agency overseeing U.S. nuclear stockpile will furlough most of its workforce starting Monday, which, as you can probably assume, will cause big problems for U.S. nuclear production, nuclear weapon production into the future, because if you have a shutdown of these facilities, it could set weapons deadlines back months, if not years, because safely closing down, facilities like this, and reopening them, it's not a quick task. And obviously there's security implications there. So this is really not looking good for the U.S. No hypersonics yet. We got this problem with the nuclear stuff going on. Russia, on the other hand, has this. And what I'll say is, to everyone who has said for years that Russia's bluffing about this, that, or the other, President Putin discussed the Burevestnik missile back in 2017 for the first time. Back in 2017, he mentioned this, missile that would be able to be undetectable, nuclear capable, powered by a small nuclear reactor, unable to be stopped by any air defense, and it could fly for months on end and target anywhere in the world and loiter for weeks and months at a time and be, activated by a code sent from Moscow. Everyone said, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. You are lying. You are bluffing. That's a bunch of BS. This is science fiction. You're not talking about reality. Well, reality, I think, just slapped every EU leader, every pundit, and every Western, military industrial complex CEO and lobbyist in the face, and they never saw it coming.